And I have with me one of our clients who I've known for probably better part of 12, 13 years. It's been an honor and a privilege to be able to do business with them. And the irony to my next guest is that for about the better part of 12 years, he wrestled with the fact of why would he want to do business with us. And we're gonna get into that. And I think it's an amazing story for how you can really just be everything that you are. As our previous guest, Bobby Messmer, talked about, being true to your core values. And I've spoke frequently on our podcast and in our blogs about the importance of core values. Those are the values you never sacrifice. They are the values that you adhere to at all costs. They are the values that drive your very business concern. And they are the values by which you make every decision in your organization. And as Bobby said, when you're true to your core values, the money will follow. So stop chasing money and start chasing customer satisfaction. And stop chasing money and start chasing perfection, or what we call excellence in your work. Start chasing excellence in the pursuit of your business. Be everything you said you would be to your end user, to your customer, and the money will follow. So don't be about the money, because the money will drive you right out of business. Serving and pursuing excellence will keep you in business as long as you want to be. With that, our next guest. Chris, would you come and join us on stage, please? And I'll introduce you and I'll ask you to give welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. It's a pleasure and an honor. Thank you.
And just like I did our last guest audience, I'd like to introduce a longtime friend, actually. He is a client, but he's a longtime friend. I've known he and his wife for the better part of maybe 12, 13 years. In the interview, I want to cover this, but I was telling the audience that it took you almost 12 years after we met for you to hire us. So in the back of your thought, I'd like you to address that question in the introduction. Tell us your story. Tell us what brings you to Vets25, what brings you to being on stage with a longtime friend that you've had. How can we work together to really not only create some value today for the audience, but what we're going to be doing over the next 10 years?
Yeah, thank you, Bill. So I want to first, before I tell my story, I want to hit kind of what Bill asked. He said it took 12 years. At first it's almost like regret, like why didn't I do it sooner? But I'm absolutely blessed to have some great mentors. Do you know the story of the bamboo, the Japanese bamboo? So for those of you that don't know, you plant it in the ground, and for the first, I think it's 8 to 10 years, it doesn't even sprout. But then when it does sprout, it grows like 20 something feet in 1 year. So, I could live with regret and say, why didn't I do this sooner? But you know what? Timing is everything. And I have a great mentor. If you're not following him, David Meltzer, he's a friend, mentor, and business partner. And he says, we want things to happen in our time, but things always happen in divine time. So he believes in divine timing. I mean, hey, my name's Chris Hanley. I'm a native Long Islander. I'm 55 years old.
You couldn't tell.
Yeah, with the accent, Long Island. But 55 years old, married, have a nice little Italian wife who's the boss. I joined the military, grew up without a father. And for me, joining the military is probably one of the greatest things I did. I needed direction. I was smart, but I didn't have I didn't have structure, and I knew the military would give me that discipline and structure. So joined the Navy, became an electronic technician, a fire controlman actually, exited the Navy, honorably discharged, opened up my own business in telecommunications, and then eventually migrated to solar. When I was still doing telecommunications, someone had said, hey, register your company as a diversity company, as a service disabled veteran-owned business, an SDV OSB. And I was told that they're kind of rare because usually when the veteran is disabled, they don't even work, much less own a business, right? So I go out to this convention and I see this one gentleman, handsome gentleman, charming. No, everybody seems to be talking to him. And of course, I just was like, wow, who is this guy? So I introduced him. Immediately, there was synergy. Guy was humble, but I could tell he had a high-level acumen. So I knew right away that I could learn from him. And my mentor talks about it. William, you're going to pay either way. You're either going to pay the dummy tax or you pay up front. So the value of what Bill was asking to partner with him, for him to be a liaison and to be like a trusted consultant and to, in a sense, a partner, made sense. So my Navy veteran friend and my business partner at the time, we put Bill on a retainer, or we enacted on a retainer. We've been partners. Where do I see us going? Well, I've been able to forge some really great relationships. And I think with Bill's connections, who, if you don't know, Bill is very well connected with multiple entities throughout the government. You wouldn't know that because he's completely humble, but he's an advocate. He's almost like someone that lobbies. He speaks before Congress. And I think with his expertise, his ability to navigate can get us to hit the center of the dartboard quicker and more often.
Very well said. Thank you. Yes, and I think Chris brought up a couple of points that are worth really honing in on for this interview. And one of them is the fact that the core values that we just spoke about a little while ago are also inherent in Chris's company. And I want to say that one of the things that we want to do is attract like types of people to do business with. And that really is apparent in the types of relationships that Chris and I are building right now. And one of them was our previous guest. So let's just talk a little bit about that, because that relationship is extremely intriguing and it's pretty exciting. So you didn't stumble on it, but you pursued this relationship, and now we're talking about our previous guest, Bobby Messmer, and Bobby is the largest engineered steel fabrication company in the world.
In the world.
In the world.
Right. Right.
You don't say that all
It's
the time.
mind-boggling for such a humble guy, in my opinion, for such a grounded guy, a guy from the street, in a sense.
Yeah. And I just love that. So let's talk about that relationship and relationships like that. So how is it that, like, you and I, just regular vets, kind of just meandering along without direction, all of a sudden you've got this world-class mentor, you've got this great business opportunity staring at us in the face. How is it that's all come about?
Yeah, thanks, Bill. That's an interesting kind of question. And I wish I could say it's simple, but it really isn't complicated. I mean, it's just being a good person that does what you say you're going to do. And I'll give an example. The solar industry that I'm currently in I was struggling in it about a year ago. And I made a decision to go to a conference in Salt Lake City. My wife, who's a best friend and also like my business advisor, said, "What are you doing spending money?" And I said, I just got to get out there and shake some hands and meet people and just be myself. And to Dale Carnegie's book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, just be more interested and people will be interested in you than interesting. So, ask a lot of questions. So I went to this conference, it's called SolarCon, and one of the headline speakers was a guy named David Meltzer. And I want to highlight David because that's how I met Bobby. So this guy was giving out his book at lunchtime. And I read the back cover and I said to the guy, "Well, how much does this book cost?" And on Amazon, he said, "No, he gives it away for free." I said, "Well, what about the shipping? Because I know that sometimes they charge like $15. That really covers the cost and the shipping." "No, David pays for the shipping as well. And if you live internationally, he'll send you the PDF." And I said, "Wow, like who does that?" So I went to the stage. There was at least 5,000 to 10,000 people in the arena. And this is a stage at this event that Andy Elliott, Gary Vaynerchuk spoke at. But for whatever reason, for the 45 minutes that I heard David speak, I was just blown away. I was blown away with his vulnerability. I was blown away with his acumen, but I was blown away in his ability to connect spiritually with a higher power. And I said, I have to talk to this guy. So after he got off the stage, to answer your question, I'm just not afraid to be me. And I was more interested than I wanted to be in myself. I was in David, asked him a lot of questions. And he said, "Hey, here's my book, but here's my cell number. Stay in touch." Well, I followed up with what everyone should do, is a thank you email, heartfelt. And I asked, "What would it take to be in your network, Dave, or to mentor with you?" And he answered back immediately. He said, "Well, we have a 2-year waiting list. But Colleen, who was copied on the email, if Chris wants to work with me and mentor with me, put him at the top of the list. Now I was shocked. I'm like, what did I get myself into? Is this 10K a month? Is this 20K a month? Is this 50K a month? Because the guy, if you look up David Meltzer, he's got a huge following. He's got some big accolades too. So I found out it was only $1,500 a month. And that money that you is to feeding families throughout the world. But anyway, so I became friends with David, just being myself. David tested me on a couple of small things and I followed through. So I'll tell you, here's the long drawn out punchline. Sorry for taking so long.
You're doing great.
David says, don't be afraid to ask for help. Think about it. I'm going off on a tangent. He says, most people will give, but they won't receive. Let me ask you, Bill, how do you feel when you help someone?
You feel awesome.
Other than love and sex, is there a greater emotion? Is there a greater emotion?
I wouldn't say so.
So here's the thing. David says to me, and he says it to many, you're really good at giving, Chris. Well, why is it so hard for you to receive? He said, when you don't ask for me, for instance, for help, you rob me of one of the greatest joys that I get from helping.
Right.
So always ask. So about 3 weeks ago, I said, hey, David, I own an SDVOSB. Do you know what that is? Oh, yes, with his acumen. I said, do you know anybody that I can work with to leverage this on a high level? No answer. The next day, a group chat. Hey, Bobby, meet Chris. I think Chris can help you with government contracts with your steel business. And didn't tell me anything about Bobby. So I'm sorry if that's a little long-winded, but just being myself and, again, being interested in people, showing an interest and being open-minded. The other thing is, David said, the most expensive thing a human being can own is a closed mind.
Yeah. Oh, boy, that's so profound. That is so. There's a couple of things that, and we're way over time, but this is so good. I'm not going to stop this. So we're going to keep going for a couple of minutes. You know, there was a couple of points that you made. My staff has been blogging through LinkedIn on a couple of books. One of them is The 7 Habits of a Highly Effective
Stephen
Person.
Covey.
Stephen Covey's book.
Yeah.
Another one that we've talked about, and the first thing I thought about when you started talking was the very famous quote that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Yeah.
And I really want to emphasize that in terms of that core value. Chris referenced probably more than 5 times in that short story he gave about the honesty and the transparency of making yourself vulnerable to the other person.
I was just going to say vulnerability, and you said it.
To the other person.
Yeah.
And that's scary, folks. I mean, that's scary. But it's transparent and it's real. And people want to do business with people that are authentic.
Yeah.
I don't want to get a line from you. And so if we could leave you with a thought today, I think that's a great thought, right?
Yeah.
Just be yourself.
Yeah, and you'll attract people like you. I'm an emotional person. I'm not afraid to tell family members, men and women that are my friends, like you, Bill, I love you, right? I'm meeting and working with David, and I helped him with something. He said, hey, man, thanks. I love you. And I was like, wow, I'm not the only one. So that's the point. Like, for me being myself and being vulnerable, there's people out there, and this is a person, and not that numbers mean anything, 100, 200 million net worth, and, you know, was the CEO of Samsung's telecommunication division. The movie Jerry Maguire was built off of the firm that he built in the sports marketing. David is partners with Warren Moon, the NFL football player, and Marshall Faulk. I just met Marshall Faulk. I'm doing business with Marshall, but like, this is a person with a big resume, highly accomplished, and he literally is writing a new book. I know I'm going off on another tangent, but it's Don't Do Business with Dicks. I'm sorry if I cursed. But anyway, he's super humble, and he said the greatest thing is that he lost everything. He was worth over 120 million and went bankrupt.
Wow.
And he said on his journey back, he realized that God is a bigger part of his life. When he was going through it, he told his mother, who was very spiritual, Mom, I don't believe in God. She said, no, you do, but your God is money. And that really struck a nerve with him. So anyway, Bill, we are over time, but thank you for the opportunity. And, in this 12-year relationship, not only have you brought forth a lot of value and a lot of wisdom and a lot of mentoring yourself, but a friendship as well.
That's awesome. Yeah, and that's just really, I think, a great way to close at Vets25 for part 1. We will do part 2 tomorrow. But part 1, I think, is all the learning that we've had today, I think it's pretty clear. The core values of the two men that we interviewed today were authenticity, be yourself, were value oriented, have a set of values that carry you through every and all situation. Have a mentor, somebody you can talk to, somebody you can bounce your ideas off, and have somebody that you can confide in is so important to your success. And then the thing that I just learned today again, so I've learned two things, one from each, that I am going to implement immediately. And Chris just told us, don't be afraid to ask. If you need help, ask. The worst thing that can happen is somebody's going to say no.
And you know what David told me, not to, interrupt, but to piggyback. David says, Chris, not to brag or validate, but if I can't help you, I'm 1 degree of separation of someone that can.
Yeah.
He said, so never rob me of my joy. He says every single day, he says, God, bring me 5 people that can help me and bring me 5 people that I can help. And his philosophy is 3 things. He simplifies it. Make a lot of money so you can help a lot of people, and in the whole process, have fun. That's how simple it is. Do you not just love that?
I do.
And my point, to Bill's point, is, so being myself, I meet a guy that is established, but he's like me in values. From me being vulnerable, he becomes vulnerable. Who does he introduce me to? A Bobby Mesmer. And look at how Bobby is.
Yep.
So it's like the law of attraction, just bringing the same type of people, together.
Yeah. And we're all attracted, and we're all hopefully going to do some amazing things for
We
for
just
each
have
other
to take
and
the
the
word
government.
hopefully out of the sentence. Bill.
Yeah. Well, hopefully it just means we take the next step.
Yeah. No,
And then it's on.
Yeah, we're in a good spot.
I want to thank everybody today for joining us on this live podcast from Vets25 National Conference in Orlando, Florida. With that, we're going to sign off today and say thank you very much for joining us. And please share this. We'd love to help you in any way we can. And so hope you had a great time. Thank you.